Hi, this is Jeff Stone of Grandpa's Pride Barbecue from the Panhandle of Florida, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
And welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show where we talk about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. Blah, blah, blah. Abridged open. Way more abridged than normal because in the first hour, we have the origin story of Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com coming up in about 7 seconds. Second hour, Jess Pryles, 10:14. And depending on how long we go with Jeff, we'll have time for a little open segment / housekeeping opportunity. But all that stands by the wayside at this point as we welcome in our monthly guest, and now who I once introduced as multiple-time Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame nominee can now be introduced as 2025 Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Famer Wes Wright, cookoutnews.com. Wes, how does it feel to get over the threshold?
It's an amazing achievement, Greg.
Have you prepared any words? I certainly don't want to take any time away from anything you might have prepared.
I would have, but I was afraid to get too choked up, so we're just going to forego that.
Really? All right. Well, certainly appreciate that, and this is not the place to share feelings, for you could forever fear the have the wrath of the embedded correspondents, and worse, the Centralites who would never let you live anything down. I should know this better than anybody. I've done the show for almost 20 years, and every wrong thing I've ever done has been routinely thrown back in my face. So this is the origin story of Wes Wright. Wes, if you've never heard these before, we will get all the way to the beginning of a Wes Wright until where we're standing current day here in 2025, because, as I've said before, I think if you're a fan of the show, you've come to find that you're expecting certain things, or you get introduced to people in the live fire industry from like where your jumping off point is in live fire. But you've had a whole adult life and a whole kid life before live fire, and this is the time to dig into that, get that retrospective, because maybe there's going to be no other time. And if nothing else, I am cataloging the here and now every single Tuesday of what's happening in the live fire community. And you, my friend, tonight on August 21st are going to be cataloged here in long form fashion. So let's dial it all the way back. When and where was Wes Wright born?
I was born in October of 1982, and it's much bigger now, but I mean, it's not like a big place, but in Rochester, Michigan, which is, just 45 minutes north of Detroit.
Other siblings in the house?
Yeah, I have a brother and 2 sisters. I'm the youngest.
So what's that like, being the youngest? I'm completely the opposite. So I have a twin brother, younger brother, like 4 or 5 years, and then I don't know if I would say substantially younger sister, but 11 years. I mean, it was a pretty big gap. She was, really just always, until now that we're all adults, she was always, much younger as far as like hanging out, whatnot, things she was into because of the age gaps. What was it like for you?
Yeah, actually, my oldest sister is probably, 10 to 12 years older than me. Oh. So, kind of similar. But I've always been kind of, I don't know, they call it like an old soul. Like I was 20 and I acted like I was 50, and I've had that vibe my whole life. So I don't know that I was like a traditional like younger brother.
So what's it like growing up in the house with older brothers, older sister?
I mean, it was, it's just a somewhat normal upbringing. The I probably spent the most time with, through the years, my two sisters more than my brother. My brother here and there, but um, especially now I don't see him as much because he lives in a different country. But yeah, it was just a normal suburban upbringing, I guess.
Where does he live?
He lives in Switzerland. Well, he just moved to France, but
What?
yeah, his wife works for like a government agency kind of thing. So
Like the CIA?
no, I can't remember what it is, like a World Economic Council or like an organization like that.
So is she like employed in the States, but she travels abroad, or is she employed by some other country?
That's a great question, Greg, and I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't remember.
Wow.
But she's employed, by I think it's by that government agency that happens to be headquartered in Switzerland.
So is she like the I want to say this, like, is she the main moneymaker, and then he just kind of picks up odd jobs or finds a new career wherever they land next?
Yeah, I think he teaches English.
Ooh,
He's kind of like, he's always been like, he joined the Peace Corps. He was in AmeriCorps, if you remember what that is.
Yeah.
He taught English in China. So, I mean, he's kind of lived everywhere.
How many countries has he been through?
Oh, I don't know. A lot.
Like more than a dozen?
Lived in or visited?
Lived in.
I mean, probably 5 or 6 at least.
Wow.
Well, more than that, I guess. Yeah.
And do you ever go out and hang out at whatever cool country he's living at the current time?
No, I haven't made the trip just because I don't know. Going to Switzerland is like the most expensive place to get to, and it's a brutal flight, especially with young kids. But I mean, when I was younger too, my mom lived in China for a little while, so I went over and spent some time over there too.
Wow. So, were your parents? What was your mom into that she's in China?
She got a master's degree from U of M in Chinese history and language. So she
Really?
worked in the auto. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So she worked in the auto industry, but she did like a stint over a couple of years in China.
So if she's in the auto industry, she's got the master's in Chinese history. Is that for a business? Are they leveraging her schooling, but in a business purpose, or one didn't have anything to do with the other?
Yes. I mean, some of it was when she was over in China, it was because she could, speak the language, and kind of, it was helping, teach just like common like manners and stuff.
Can I ask a dumb question here? Is your mom of Chinese descent?
No, both my parents.
She learned Chinese?
Yeah, my mom was born in Metro Detroit.
What a crazy smart person. And your dad speaks Chinese too?
No. My dad was...
Your dad's Chinese.
He's not. He's a white guy too.
Yeah.
And he was faculty at a university.
Huh. Does he speak any foreign language?
No. No.
Did he study some other country's history and is an expert?
No,
okay.
He's passed for a long time now, but he was hyper focused on engineering. His job was basically companies would come to the university with some kind of theoretical concept they want developed into a product, and it would be up to him to research and develop that product.
Wow. So you come from a family of smarty pantses. No pressure.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Unbelievable. What's high school like for you?
It was good. I went to 3 different high schools, but I spent most of my time at a high school called International Academy, which it's like it's technically public, but you have to like I don't know, kind of like sign up to be in there, and it really like a hard curriculum. So I went there halfway through my junior year. probably 100 kids per class, 150, I think, when I first started. But then I wanted to go to like a regular public high school because, I'm young and I wanted to like hang out with my friends and stuff like that. And also at my high school, you had to go an extra month a year and an extra hour a day. So it was just a lot of school. And so then I went to like a regular public high school after that. And, I really liked there too. It was, good vibes and had some great friends there.
Did you feel like you weren't getting near the education once you were able to compare and contrast the two?
Yeah. So when I transferred back to like a normal, like public high school, because I was going to school so much. Whoa.
Stand by, Wes. I'm sorry. Totally unprofessional. Sorry about that.
When I went to a regular public high school, I had so many credits. I only needed, I think like health class or no, I needed swimming because we didn't have a pool like my whole senior year. So I graduated high school a semester early.
You needed swimming to graduate high school?
Yeah, it was like part of a district requirement that you had to have swimming.
By the way, not smart. I think that's actually a pretty great idea and requirement.
Yeah, I mean, especially in Michigan with all the lakes, because it was like a program put into place to make sure, keep kids from drowning. So you have to swim a mile as your final exam in high school.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Do you have to do it in a certain time or you just have to finish?
I think you just have to finish within the class. I remember wanting to throw up, though, when I was done. It was rough.
Are you out in a lake or are you in the pool?
You're in a pool.
Yeah, just lap swimming?
Just laps, yeah.
Oh. Were you on the swim team by chance?
No, that was, I don't even know if I could swim before the class, to be honest with you.
So that kind of is a momentum, or that's a big point in your life. You learn how to swim. It's in school, doing it with all your classmates. That's it's pretty intense. Were you a sports guy in school at all?
I played basketball quite a bit, and then also I skateboarded too.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, you're like 6'4" currently, right?
Yeah, I probably in high school 6'4". I think I'm shrinking. I'm more like 6'3" now, but
and no, you play on the high school team, or you just like playing like street ball?
Yeah, I like playing street ball, and I played like club basketball too. Again, like because I went to like really academic focused high school, we didn't have school sports, so we just had like intramural sports. Oh. So I didn't have that like option. So, but I would play on, like YMCA teams, things like that. I could dunk as like a freshman or sophomore. So I'm pretty proud of that.
You could palm a ball too.
Anymore, yeah. Oh yeah.
That was my big claim to fame. So I was just a little under 6'4", I think with sneakers on 6'2", but I had exceptionally large hands, still have exceptionally large hands and large feet. So, and I could jump really high. So I started dunking maybe sophomore year in high school, barely. Junior year got a little bit more consistent, but never in a game. And, but my biggest claim to fame was like in the 7th grade, I could palm a regulation size basketball. Everybody thought that was, ridiculous.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive for 7th grade.
Yeah. But that was it. Like I was a horrible athlete, like in that stage of my life, and only got to be about as average as it gets even in high school. My school wasn't overly competitive in anything, and the years I was going through high school, we sucked at everything. So I think it was just lucky I was in that time where I could get on a sports team due to my horrific averageness in athletics. So it seemed like I was maybe better than we really were. But, I mean, there was a good 8 to 10 year span where the Kenston Bombers were atrocious at everything and accepted everybody that was interested in doing a sport. So from a high school kid standpoint, are you troublemaker at all? Or are you pretty keep your nose clean and keep it to the grindstone?
Yeah, I pretty, I don't know that I was like a stellar student or anything. I'm always been, through high school and most of college, I was not do much of the homework and then just take the test kind of guy. So, I wasn't like an amazing at academics, I had decent grades, but, yeah, for the most part, I like to follow the rules. So I was a rule follower other than when I was skateboarding, getting, kicked out of places by police out of frequent. That just happens though.
So your mom is spending some time in China. Your dad's also in higher education, professor stuff. Your parents stay together right along here, or they split up at some point?
Yeah, they stayed together until my dad passed in 2007. Yeah. So my whole life, though.
Was your mom in China when you were born? Like, you remember that?
No. This happened when I was much older. So.
Oh, really? So she did it after the fact.
Yeah.
So, what kind of relationship do you have with your parents?
I have a good relationship with my mom. She lives nearby me here. We actually, my wife and I live. I went to school here. Then moved down to Miami for a little while, lived in Atlanta. Then my wife and we got married. And so we moved back up here to be like near my family because it's just easier with kids when you're near family.
What was it? Did your dad die unexpected or some medical situation?
He had a heart condition for a number of years, and he didn't really take care of himself either, so you kind of, burning the candle at both ends a little bit. So it wasn't necessarily unexpected.
Something that you have to worry about from a hereditary medical standpoint?
I don't think so. I've gone and got my heart checked a couple of times with, like a sonogram type thing, whatever they call it. And he had like a enlarged heart, and they haven't seen that in me. So
What kind of food scene is at the house while you're growing up?
Not fantastic. So my neither parent, and apologize if my mom listens to this, but not great cooks. No oil, just like a chicken breast unseasoned, just pan fried, and then some kind of easy side dish. That's kind of the go-to. And then like even as like a little kid, like I had a day of the week I had to cook too. I think every Wednesday I had to like cook and do dishes, even, like really, really small. Like that was just part of my chores.
When did you start cooking? Like how old are you?
I don't know, middle school maybe. I don't remember.
And are you given the menu items and you have to prepare them, or are you like winging it from scratch?
Kind of winging it some, yeah. Might be like, oh, we have chicken, we have, some ground beef, cook it. And then, so it was kind of that, that was the cuisine at my household. My brother, though, he like, in high school, my brother's 4 years older than me. Him and his friends would get together on the back porch with, like the Weber kettle like almost every weekend. And so, that was something different and fun, and kind of how I first started liking grilling is, they would be out there grilling every weekend.
Do you recall your parents coming from homes that were also not necessarily on the cutting edge of culinary expertise?
I don't have an amazing relationship with my dad's family, so I don't even really know what their cuisine was like. Then my mom's side, like my grandpa on my mom's side grew up on a farm in Canada, and like just their generation, they were born in the 1920s, so they made everything from scratch, had a massive garden, and my grandpa is Ukrainian, so we did a lot of like Ukrainian food, things like that. But my grandma would make like homemade everything that was pretty good.
So as high school is starting to wrap up, is there an expectation that Wes is going to go to college directly? Are you also offered other opportunities, trades, military, something like this, or was it just always going to be college?
Yeah, it was definitely that it was going to be college no matter what, but not really like told how to accomplish that necessarily. So I had to kind of figure that out on my own. I like I said, I graduated high school early, and I'm young for my grade. So I was 17 in 2 months and I started college.
Wow.
And yeah, but I started off at a community college for a couple of years while I tried to figure out kind of like what the college process was like. Got a liberal arts associates there and enjoyed going there too. Before then I went to Oakland University. It's a university in Metro Detroit, where I went for mechanical engineering. And then also I got I got it in mechanical engineering. I worked at Chrysler for 4-ish years, starting as like an intern. And then after that, it was 2008. Economy was terrible.
Yeah.
I finally learned about finance. I never knew about it because I grew up just like in Detroit. I just knew about like cars and stuff like that. So then I went back to school and got my MBA from Michigan State.
In finance?
Yeah, in finance and corporate accounting.
So are the first few jobs also in automotive then, or like the mechanical engineering thing?
Like adult professional jobs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started at Chrysler doing manufacturing engineering, so setting up assembly lines. I worked on like the Grand Cherokee front axle line. They were setting it up with a bunch of robotics, and it was like pre-production parts, figuring out how to make it work, and then troubleshooting it. Then also for Chrysler, I worked in vehicle development. I worked in quality and in purchasing too.
Was it showing itself to be some kind of a dead end or treacherous career to stay within? Seems like if you're in automotive, especially on that kind of the side of it, might be a good career path.
Yeah, so I grew up like loving cars. I used to do some like amateur racing and instructing and things like that. And but when I got to Chrysler, it was like just, tons of bureaucracy, and you're spending more time just, updating spreadsheets rather than doing like cool stuff, which is why I liked engineering in the first place. So like it wasn't a dead end job in that like I couldn't progress my career, but I was just pretty bored with what I was doing, no
offense, but finance doesn't sound like it's much more exciting.
Yeah, it is probably the company too. Just like it was a weird time for Chrysler. It's always kind of a weird time for Chrysler. But like I remember distinctly, there was a 3-month period where I didn't know like who my boss really was or what my job really was. So I had like 3 months where I literally had nothing to do every day at work, and I just had to go like punch in and just kind of hang out.
Best 3 months ever.
It was incredibly boring. It was, and just trying to stay awake while you're just like, what's going on here? Because they're going through like purchases.
You have nobody giving you direction. You have nobody to go and bounce ideas off of, or should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? That could probably become frustrating very quickly.
Yeah, I liked my boss at that job, but he was in the same boat as me, is that they were moving people around and they were still figuring it out. So he didn't know what he was doing either.
Wow. No wonder car companies needed bailouts. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right, so you take a shine to finance, or you want to learn about finance, you go back, you get the MBA. Michigan State, you said?
Yeah, Michigan State.
Love Michigan State here on the show. Once attended a basketball camp at Michigan State at the old, what's the name of the field house, like where Magic Johnson used to play? That's where they held the camp. So like Breslin had just been built a small handful of years before I started attending that camp. And so Judd Heathcote was still the head coach back then. So, this was a long time ago now. I think it was my sophomore year in high school, junior year in high school. I went for that summer camp. And a lowly assistant coach, Tom Izzo, was also a part of that, who, of course, has grown into legend. It's been the only two coaches for my whole lifetime. There's only been two coaches at Michigan State, so Judd Heathcote and Tom Izzo. And so you play through the week, and then the goal was, if you were top team of summer camp, Judd Heathcote coached your team in the finals. And if you were second best team, Tom Izzo was going to coach your team in the finals as runner-up. So our team made it into the finals. We were number one. It was going to have Judd Heathcote coach me. And right before the final game, I had somebody set a pick on me. I was whirling around. I clashed heads with a guy. split my eye open and had to go to the hospital to receive stitches. And I did not get to play in the final game. No Judd Heathcote coaching for me, which of course ruined my chances of getting any type of college scholarship. And bitter I have remained all these 34, 35 years later, whatever. So that's my take on Michigan State. So how long is the MBA program? Like, I assume you're on campus at that, or are you distance learning?
Yeah. So because I was switching careers, I thought it would be a great time. And plus it was 2008. So the economy was just atrocious. I went back full time. It was a 2-year program.
Like living on campus?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Doing it all again. Just,
How old
reliving
are you
college
at that point?
Let me think about that. 25, 26.
Wow. I mean, to have had college experience, maybe 4 years before that, 5 years before that, and then to go back to the majesty, and now a really cool Division I college like Michigan State, a lot of hot broads there, and you are a well-seasoned vet. This had to be a much different experience than the first go around. I mean, not holding aside like the size of schools, where Oakland University not nearly the size of Michigan State. No shade on Oakland, but just facts. This had to be an incredible experience, I would imagine, outside of the classroom.
Yeah, it was. I had an amazing experience there. Both in the classroom and just being there, and because I'm in my mid-20s, so you're old enough to kind of appreciate that experience, having like been in the workforce for a little bit, and it's completely different than when you're fresh out of high school and you have absolutely no idea what's going on in life, period. And here it's like you kind of get it, so you get to live it up for 2 years, redo some things and how you want to do it.
What does college cost back then?
I mean, I don't know. 60 grand probably for the 2 years.
For
maybe?
the 2 years,
I got
30 grand. Wow.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship too, so that helped some.
Were you just making a career change on your own, or did somebody spot that you have a finance knack and says, hey, Wes, we're going to put you through school to get this MBA. You come back and work for us after you get it, and that's how it's done? Or you're just about facing on your own and deciding this is the way you want to go?
Yes, I literally didn't even know finance was a thing growing up. I was so, just because my dad worked in engineering at a university, my mom works in automotive, right? I thought you were kind of like an engineer. That's just what you did. Then when I was working at Chrysler, one of the other engineers, he was really into investing. So he recommended a couple books to me. And so I started reading a ton of books on investing. And then I learned about mergers and acquisitions and thought that was really neat. And it seemed like a good way. Like, I really like trying to figure out the strategy behind things and kind of breaking down how they work. And so, mergers and acquisitions, or M&A, seemed like a good application of that. And so that's what inspired me to go back. So like I said, Chrysler was doing terrible. The economy was doing terrible. And I was like, it's kind of a great time to go back and try to do that.
So are you emerging out of Michigan State around the 2010, 2011 time frame?
Yeah, 2010, yeah.
What's the first job you get with a new degree?
Well, so I also had an internship that was important for a number of reasons, but I had an internship in between my first and second year at the Burger King Corporation in Miami. And I was
Burger King?
Yeah, like the headquarters, which was funny to explain to my grandparents because they couldn't understand that I wasn't working at like a Burger King, and I think until they passed away, they just believed I was
masters in finance, flipping burgers and fries. Way to go!
Yeah. And although when you work at Burger King, at least back then, you have to go work at a restaurant, and since they're headquartered in Miami, I got sent to one that was only Spanish speaking, which was, kind of experience because I don't speak any Spanish, but luckily I know how to work a fry machine from my early days working at an A&W. So I was all set there. But when I was an intern there, that's where I met my wife too. She was also a finance intern. So, that was a good experience.
At Burger King?
At Burger King, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we both were interns together, and
Wow.
and we met. She was going to the University of Miami, and yeah, it was great.
So what's the move?
After that,
No, like how do you pick her up?
so I'm not the most social guy, but what helps me in that situation is because it's like a structured internship. There's all these mixers that they set up, so I just naturally got to interact with her, and things like that, and one thing just led to another, and that's how we met.
She probably thought it was cool that you were so tall too.
Yeah, I didn't even, it's funny. I didn't know that was like an asset in any way. It was just,
chicks dig
whatever.
Tall guys, no doubt.
And then, that was like a thing for her. I had no idea. So that
well,
was
remember, and I can speak as an authority on this because I have 3 daughters and, in varying age, and 2 of them are, I would say, tremendously tall, but certainly taller than the average female. So I think the average female clocks in, let's say, 5'5" to 5'7". Maddie and Bobby are both, approaching 6 foot, if not 6 foot. And then the youngest one is, a little bit more on whatever the normal scale is. But even she's a little bit taller, but not compared to the other 2. And when we would talk about dating and who's attractive and who's not, this and that, because I want to have that open conversation with them because all boys are scumbags, and I needed to make sure that they learn that, well in advance of anything nefarious happening, if you know what I mean. And I said, well, why wouldn't this guy be attractive? Why wouldn't this guy be attractive? And the first thing they say is, well, too short. I can't date a guy who's shorter than me. And then as I vet that out through the rest of female society, by and large, I think, and I'm painting with a stereotypical stroke here,
sure.
Women don't want to be dating a guy that is shorter than them because typically speaking, women aren't tall. They are the smaller of the genders, right? By and large. So there does seem to be a propensity for women to want to date men that are taller than them, and then add the extra notch in the belt if you are plus 6 foot. So for a good amount of my life, I was, let's say 6'2". You're 2-3 inches taller than me, so you were even cooler. Little known fact: being taller is a catch for a woman, so she probably really liked it.
Yeah, I learned that when I met her. So that was, I was glad at that outcome.
How quick does your romance lead into engagement and ultimate marriage?
It took a little bit, for some various reasons, but also it's a 10-week internship. So she still lives in Miami. Then I moved back to do my second year at Michigan State. So, but
so you have some distance relationship.
Yeah. And so I kind of blame her for my grades declining a little bit second year because I was going down to visit her and I'd blow off a class or 2, things like that. Then after that, it took another year or 2 before we really started getting more serious and dating. I moved back down to Miami. And started my career kind of in finance and M&A through that. So it took a couple years before we got more serious, though.
And you went to Miami to be with her specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was at the U at the time?
She was, undergrad and grad at the U. I had season tickets when I was down there.
And when you're going to visit, are you flying down or are you driving down? Because one seems expensive and one seems miserable.
So luckily flights outside of peak times, flights from Detroit to Miami or Fort Lauderdale technically are like $200, so that really helped. Yeah. It's so cheap.
I think Detroit is a better airport than Cleveland. Like you can't find a direct flight unless you're going to Dallas, Houston, or like one of the hubs. So like Chicago, Atlanta, you can get, but outside of that, I got to connect everywhere. I'm going down to visit my parents on Thursday, and like the best option was flying into Tampa, which still has a connection. And then I still have to drive another 35, 40 minutes to where they're actually at in the Bradenton area. Flying into Sarasota was, expensive and just as long. And Cleveland is terrible. Detroit must be way better and way cooler to fly in and out of.
Yeah, probably because of the auto companies. But this is a hot take, but I think Detroit Metro is the best airport in the country. I've never been to a better airport than Metro.
Ever?
No, I think it's the best.
Denver?
The layout of it. I have Denver. Yeah,
I don't
Detroit
like it.
Metro Airport. It's spaced out. It's not too crowded. I'm talking the Delta terminal too, because it's a Delta hub. But it's my favorite airport.
So once you guys start dating, you're both down in Miami. When do you get married?
Yeah, we're living in Miami. Then we decided Miami's a great place in your like mid to late 20s. But I don't. It'd be harder to raise a kid there and expensive just because like schooling and stuff like that. So we were looking at where we wanted to go. She wasn't, and I really wasn't either. But we were ready to go to like the bitter cold of Michigan because that's been a hard transition anyways. So we ended up in Atlanta. We moved up there. And then, so we moved to Atlanta probably 2013, I want to say. And we got married in 2015.
In Atlanta?
In Atlanta, yeah.
How long are you there?
Just probably till 2015. And then we moved back up to Michigan.
Yeah. And then are you having kids at that point, or do you wait to get up to Michigan before you start having kids?
Yeah, my daughter was born in 2016 in the summer. So,
what's Atlanta like to live? Is that like a suburb living kind of thing?
It's a lot more city than like the Detroit suburbs.
Yeah.
It's it seems to. I went down there a year or two ago, and it's even way busier than I remember it. But it's more of a city mix than a lot of the other suburbs that I'm used to. We lived in a place called Smyrna for a little bit, and then we lived in like East Cobb, Marietta, which they're both like outside of the city just a little bit. But getting anywhere in Atlanta takes a tremendous amount of time just because of the traffic situation.
Yeah, it just seems like I don't know if I've ever heard anybody rave about either visiting there or living there because of the amount of traffic and congestion and general amount of people, heat. Like nobody seems to bowl me over with how great it is.
Yeah, they have a lot of good companies, a lot of good industry. So career-wise, it's good, and they have a decent food scene. It's gotten better too since when I was there. I think my biggest gripe is they didn't build they have so many hills, so maybe that's why. But there's no like grid system, so and they don't have roads that go like east and west, really. So like if like 285 is like it's like the loop around the city. If that gets congested, like there's no other way to get to where you want to go at an east and west direction. So it's like otherwise you're at stoplights every 5 feet and just winding through hills. I think that was my biggest gripe.
So how do we somehow start working into a barbecue scene?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I've really liked grilling ever since since I can remember, but it really, when I was high school age. Then when I was living in Atlanta, I started to really get into like barbecue food and figuring out like what good and bad barbecue was. And then it actually started more with like, I really fell in love with cooking. And then that translated to outdoor cooking. So from there, and then when I moved back to Michigan, I really like went full bore into it. And it's hard. You can't really, I don't know, in Miami and where we're living in Atlanta, it'd be hard to get really into live fire cooking because we're living in like a high rise apartment in Miami. So that makes it hard. So, but having a house really lends itself better to getting into it.
So it sounds like you're personally interested in getting more into it, becoming a better cook, learning all about different cookers, techniques, this and that. How does that ultimately feed you getting into some kind of a business, website, podcast, whatever? I mean, you have cookoutnews.com. Was cookoutnews.com something else before it ended up being what we know it as today?
Yeah, so a year or two, I can't remember, before I started Cookout News, which I think I started in 2022, in early spring. A year or two before that, I started making YouTube videos actually. And I didn't love doing that. It didn't quite feel authentic to who I was to doing it. More so, I might do it again at some point, but just at that point in my life, it just didn't feel right. And I was working in mergers and acquisitions for a B2B media publication at the time. And I was seeing all sorts of different publications, literally they were Wheelchair News, stuff like that. And then I was like, okay, well, what's the big barbecue publication? And I looked and I couldn't find any. There was, some old
barbecue
legacy
news, dude.
Yeah, they focus on cooking though, cooking competitions, and nothing on I'm really interested in finance and the business and the working of it, and then also cooking obviously, but there was nothing around it that was current that I would want to read. So I was like, I'm just going to start writing about it. And so that was the foundation of Cookout News. I applied everything I had learned both in engineering and in mergers and acquisitions and finance to, writing about companies. So
how are you finding the information to actually write about them? I mean, I'm sure as somebody who's got a budding passion for it, you can go through the aisles at Lowe's or Home Depot, you find companies, but they're ultimately going to be the same 4 or 5, 6, 7 companies before you would really start to dig into the minutia of all these brands nobody's ever heard of, just from a general Tom and Jane kind of sense. So how are you finding topics to write about and other companies to write about besides the big ones?
I mean, I keep my eyes open quite a bit. I look for different companies that are emerging, maybe ones I haven't heard about, talking to a lot of people, and they introduce me to brands that, I may not have heard of. Then reading a lot of SEC filings, government filings, all that stuff to learn, they focus more on the bigger companies, but you sometimes see a mention of other stuff going on in the industry there. And then a lot of people reach out to me and just, tell me about what they're working on, their products or things like that.
Did that happen pretty quick right off the bat?
I'd say, yeah, it took off it took a few months. It's funny when you first start out writing, because you're writing to nobody, it's just, I'm sure you had the same experience with podcasting, I would imagine, when you started.
I think of it every week. I'm talking to nobody.
But, I'd write an article those first few months, and, it'd get one view, but, I was psyched about that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Someone I don't know is reading something I wrote. And with my newsletter too, there was a month or two period where, nobody knows this, but it was 1 or 2 people reading it. So I'm writing a personal newsletter essentially for these 1 or 2 people. But then, I think it proved out that there was a want for it in the industry. And so word of mouth, people started talking about it, and it led to me meeting some cool people. And, that's just continued. I found a lot of people in barbecue just are really nice and, want to talk and want to help out. And that's helped the growth as well.
I think one of the things that sets your website apart, sets you apart as the main writer, is when you produce a drawing that probably nobody else could find, or that you're getting that information about potential of 2 companies combining or one going out of business. How do you find all that stuff? Is that just background from the day job spilling over into the side hustle?
Yeah, it's from doing research. So one, when you do mergers and acquisitions, you have to research a lot about companies to make sure you're not making a bad decision. And then also when I used to work in something called corporate finance, which is a mixture of treasury, new ventures, investor relations. So through that, I would have to, and plus I would just enjoy it, reading everything that a company puts out in their government filings and knowing where to look for it. So I just go through that stuff where, most people wouldn't even, that'd be pretty boring. They wouldn't want to read through it. So that's where I find most of it.
Do you think that's where you get the hook, is you're able to digest all that information, and now you're going to be crafting something that's a little bit more approachable for the everyday reader that might be interested in it?
Yeah, what I try to do with all my articles is I don't want to be one of those people that's just like opinionated and, yelling out strong opinions in my articles. I try to stay away from that. It's, even if it's a product that I might not personally be that interested in, I try to find an angle of what it means for the industry or who might like it. So I try to not have necessarily, I might throw in a little bit here and there, but I try not to have much of a slanted view on it. And I just try to contextualize whatever it is for the industry. And also I just write about it in a way that, I would just talk to anyone about it as opposed to coming at it from some high academic place or something like that. I want people to understand what it is. And I just want to boil it down to a pretty simple article that is fun to read. I want people to read my stuff and enjoy reading it and not being like, oh, I'm just going to read this because, I need it for my job or something.
You ever been sued?
No, I haven't been sued.
Have you ever been threatened?
I haven't been threatened to sue. I have had people reach out and, be mad that I, released an article on something or that, it'll be like weird stuff. Cause just like what I didn't like about Chrysler, there's companies that are like way too into themselves. I'll say, and I'm not going to name names on this, but I'll write an article and they'll be like, hey, can you change this headline to be, like they won't like the way my headline's written or, something like that. And I'm like, my headline will be purely factual. And it's like, they have this idea, this like weird PR image of what it should be. And it's like, it's silly.
So how do you navigate getting that kind of request? You just dust it off, or do you engage with them at all?
Depends what it is. If it's some change that I don't think changes the essence of the article, I'll, sometimes go along with it, but I'll also note like, hey, this is factual. I'm not, skewing anything. I'm not even, taking an opinion on this. I'm just reporting what it is. So if it's something minor that I don't think changes it, yeah, and oftentimes I will, but I'll sometimes do back and forth and, I'll just say, no, I'm not, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't make any sense. What I said is accurate. So it depends too. It depends like who's coming at it. Cause sometimes if someone's coming at it and, I have a relationship with them and they're like, hey, they want to talk about something or, it's different than some, like, especially you'll see with some PR firms that work on these accounts, they have like this weird sense of entitlement that I'm writing about, a company that they represent. And so they have some authority over it. It's weird. And if you come at it like from that, like, then I'm much less likely to work with you than if you're just like, hey, for such and such reason, would you mind changing this? Yeah, sure. No problem.
You ever thought about holding them hostage for money? Like, yeah, I'll sacrifice everything. I'll rewrite everything, but it's going to cost you X amount.
I've never gone with that approach.
Yeah. Too much integrity.
I don't know if it's that or I just don't want to deal with it.
Is this a full-time job?
No, I still work in mergers and acquisitions.
Could it? Do you ever think it could be a full-time job?
Maybe over a long time horizon, it's possible. It's definitely not there yet, though.
So if your expertise is in M&A, is Cookout News a potential candidate for being purchased by anybody? And if so, who would be the most likely candidate to purchase Cookout News?
I mean, so much like you work in sales, right? So like, it's hard for me to say no and to not, I just enjoy negotiating things. So, if I had the right offer, I'm not going to say I wouldn't just because I just enjoy doing deals, but, I definitely want it to go to, some kind of strategic partner. Because of what I can do with it, I think there's definitely other companies in B2B media that could kind of take there's a lot of things that I think of that would grow it and make it even better that, I don't have the time, the resources necessarily to invest into it. So if there was the right strategic partner that was looking at it that I think could take what I'm doing, and implement some of those ideas, I think there's potential in that.
Where do you see it in 5 years? Where would you like to see it in 5 years?
I'd like to just keep growing kind of how it is. It's been on a steady growth path, and I would like to, as it continues to grow, to start employing more people to help write content too, so I can, it's content focused, and I, just have more of that on a daily basis.
You ever thought about hiring an additional writer? Or could you foresee a time when you would have to hire like staff writers to continue to pump content?
Yeah, there's one person right now that I've contracted to write a piece, and we'll see how it goes. And I'm open to it. It's just
anybody we know.
I don't think so. They're they focus on journalism, but it's kind of hard to find the right person that knows like grilling and barbecue, has the right voice kind of that I want for it, and then also can kind of delve into what I want to in the articles.
Are they writing under their own name, or is it going to be an article put out by cookoutnews.com?
No, they'll be under their own name.
Nice.
Yeah.
When does that happen?
I'm not sure. Probably in the next few weeks, month, I would say.
How do we see Livefire closing off here in 2025? As the industry,
I think it's not going to be great.
Yeah.
Tariffs have worked their way through the system, and so everybody's cost of goods sold are extremely expensive. So you're seeing restructuring. You're going to see maybe industry consolidation. It's going to be more of the same that we've been seeing. It's in a rough spot.
Is there a new round of tariffs coming up in the beginning of the next month?
I don't know. I haven't heard that. I heard that there was essential stuff was being excluded from Chinese tariffs, but I don't think barbecues are essential. Well, I mean, they are to some.
There's something called the 232 bill. You familiar with that? You're not in the trucking industry, so maybe you're not, but this is something that
does it relate to Section 232?
I don't know. I just got so I've been hearing those numbers being floated around for months, and Peterbilt is in a position where, we do Class 8 manufacturing in Denton, Texas, but then there was a portion in Mexico, and then the medium-duty portion was in Canada, up in St. Therese. And evidently with the passing of this 232, November 1st, there's going to be like a new 25% tariff on trucks coming in from Canada or Mexico. Needless to say, all production moving in post-haste, all down to Denton, Texas. So Peterbilt trucks are going to be all made in America at this point through all lines, as far as I'm being told. And that's not like new news, or I'm not talking out of school here, but which seems to be putting potentially other manufacturers, other truck OEMs at a potential disadvantage because they're not set up to move as nimbly as we are. We've been doing it for any number of months, if not well over a year, just to kind of test to see if you can make this model or that model. But I didn't know if that particular bill was something that is also going to affect other industries that I like the barbecue and grilling industry.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that after we talk. That's something I'll definitely look into. I'm curious though too on your end, beyond the cost of good and the selling truck aspect. Are you seeing any less demand from people moving product less?
Yeah, freight's down. It sucked. It's been
in
a 39-month recession, or whatever past recession is, freight depression, I would say, and the continued non-interest and non-buying of over-the-road tractors has been as bad as I've ever seen it in the 10 years that I've been doing this. There's always been a certain amount of continued interest in making sure that your over-the-road tractors are replaced, within the life cycle that you're running the truck, depending on how many you have. I don't remember the last time we sold an over-the-road truck, to be honest. I mean, it is so far and few between. Our money has been made in the vocational side, so it's dump trucks, it's trash trucks, it's everything that isn't moving freight, because freight sucks, and it's orders are down, schedules are down, production is down, everything sucks. We're all on fire, and we're all going to die here very quickly. And it doesn't appear the 26 calendar year is holding out much hope for a brighter outlook. I would say a lot more of the same at this point.
Yeah, I think that's the same for the live fire industry. As long as tariffs are in place, you'll see some companies that have moved around their supply chains and laid off people, and so they've gotten smaller themselves. But there's, they won't have money to grow because just the conditions of the market, and also it's depending on housing, and I don't see that necessarily turn around either without the economy recovering.
Wes, guess who I just got an email from 4 hours ago?
Who's that?
Roger Daly. How about that?
Really?
CEO of Weber. Can't believe I'm saying that out loud. It appears we could be putting a interview together, which I thought was going to be, let's say, January, February 25, at December 25, or maybe broaching or leading into the beginnings of 2026. But he said that the integration process was taking a lot more time than he was expecting, and it looks like he might be able to accommodate an interview finally here in December, January. What should be the first question I ask him?
I'd ask him about that integration process and how it's going and what it looks like.
Yeah,
should give me a call. I'll help him with M&A integration.
That's right. You're a hired gun, right? I mean, you're the expert. So, yeah. All right, Wes, this has been a great hour. Appreciate you taking the time to really let us get to know you a little bit better. Like I said, a lot of people might know you just because of cookoutnews.com, but now we know the whole Wes Wright during the show. So appreciate you doing that, and encourage everybody to go to cookoutnews.com and check out what you're doing. Continued success, and welcome into the hall. You deserve it.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And two, it's important to mention too, once I started out, you brought me on your show not long after I started my website, and I attribute a lot of my success to that. So I really appreciate that, and the fact that you think enough of me to be voted into the hall. So I appreciate all that.
You got it. Have a great night, Wes. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Greg.
And we'll check you in next month. We'll check you out next month, I should say, in November, if you can believe it. Wow. Where has the year gone? All right, so if you're just tuning in, you just missed the origin story of Wes Wright, the creator of cookoutnews.com. Was up in Michigan, and then eventually got down to Miami, Florida, and then Atlanta, and then back up to Michigan, had the kids, the marriage, was in engineering with automotive, got into finance, eventually not eventually, but was a fan of live fire all along, and then here's Cookout News, cookoutnews.com. And I must thank Scott Moody, I believe, who was like a third-party marketing person for W.C. Bradley at the time, who just offhandedly said, oh, by the way, do you know, or have you ever read cookoutnews.com? I said, I'm pretty sure I know everything that's happening. That's not a website I'm familiar with. He said, you might want to check it out. You think you would find it interesting. And trolled through 3, 4, 5 different articles in a row of what Wes was writing about at the time, and was happy to have him on for the first time, and he's so good. He's of course, monthly guest, as all the regular fans know of the show. So he's contributed a lot. He's been a multiple-time Guest Hall of Fame nominee just due to the sheer amount of volume and great interviews that he's given. And happy to see that he is in here in 2025, well-deserved. And if I'm not mistaken, and I don't want to jump the gun too much, was it a 1 or 2 best moments ago? Wes Wright was also featured in that. John doing the 5 successive weeks of who makes up the 2025 Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame. So, all right, let's go ahead and step away just for a moment. Get on the train here, the time train. Ooh, I'm not going to get on the time train. Maybe I can with... no, I better not do it. I'm going to wait. There'll be a few ads here, top of the hour. make sure we get the time right here so we have as much time as we need for Just Trials at 10:14. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here in the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.